The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Pauline Verzosa. The U.S. Embassy here in Manila is holding a watch party for the U.S. elections. And for more updates on that, we have our mobile journalist, Marymon Reyes, joining us via Zoom this morning. Marymon, kamusta? Ano bang pwede natin maasahan dyan sa watch party na yan for the U.S. elections?
Yes, Pauline, good morning to you. Itong pinaka-watch party ay inorganize hindi lang para ma-bring together ang members of the press, but also for political enthusiasts, guests, and even the public in general to have the opportunity to see real-time yung election turnout, especially ngayon na sobrang heated lagi ng US presidential elections, specifically between Kamala Harris of the Democrats and Donald Trump of the Republicans. For today, we're still waiting for the other guests na pumunta pa dito, and later on makakarinig tayo ng ilang talk or speech from Ambassador Mary Kay Carlson. At the same time, we're also expecting possible diplomats and other professionals that would help explain and discuss with our visitors around here kung paano nga ba nag-work yung election system. Kasi iba yung sistema ng voting sa Amerika compared dito sa Pilipinas. Sa atin kasi madali lang sabihin na by popular vote, dito mo na malalaman kung sino nga ba yung pinaka mananalo. Pero for the US, iba ang sistema dito. Meron tayong tinatawag na election or electoral college. So dito natin kinukuha yung simple majority. So everything will be discussed and lahat ng bisita dito ay magkakaroon ng deeper idea or knowledge on how it goes. Pauline.
Okay, Marymon, are there also other activities or discussions planned there for that particular watch party? I mean, are there other ways for the U.S. Embassy to engage the Filipinos in this particular elections?
Yes, they are also displaying around here, kung titignan ninyo, several monitors that show international news agencies, pati yung pinaka-election turnouts nila and yung estimates nila. So ito yung isang way for us, members of the press, at the same time, members of the public, to have an idea kung paano na nga ba nag-work or ano na ang nangyayari ngayong US presidential elections. At the same time, throughout the day, tuloy-tuloy daw ang mini discussions or discourses across several tables dito para daw doon sa may questions tungkol sa kung paano ba nag-work yung election system, how is the party system different from the US in comparison to the Philippines, and several alike. So we're expecting more visitors later on. At the same time, speeches para maintindihan pa natin kung paano ito mag-work. Pauline.
Yes, Marin, actually, I could see Ambassador Mary Kay right behind you. So I'm guessing the event is about to start already. But lastly, Marymon, I know this event is for the watch party for the U.S. elections. But is there a sentiment from the crowd? Have you talked to anyone if they're leaning towards Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, or is it more neutral over there?
Yes, actually, aside from professional visitors around here, nakita rin natin ilang mga estudyante from Angeles High School, National High School, and Bangkulasi High School. So ilan sa mga nakuha nating mood from them, the excitement is there. They are hoping that the results will turn out sa kung anong ine-expect nila. Some are hoping for the first female US president to be seated at the White House. Or yung iba naman, inaabangan nila kung babalik ba itong si Donald Trump sa White House. So they're hoping for the very best of the results. Pauline.
All right, thank you very much. That was our mobile journalist, Marymon Reyes, reporting live. Now, former COMELEC Commissioner and U.S. election observer, Attorney Goyo Larrazabal, says more Americans are engaged in their elections. He noted, though, that voter turnout remains relatively low. And here's an excerpt from his interview on The Big Story.
What stands out to you with this third one, the 2024 elections?
Well, as compared to previous elections, there's more involvement in the people now. Previously, people were not too involved in voting. They didn't really voice their opinion. Now they're more vocal. If you're for Trump, they will say you're for Trump, and if you're for Harris, they would be open about the fact that they are voting for Harris.
You mean they're more open about who they're choosing to be their president?
Yes, and they're more let me put it, they're more enthusiastic now as compared to before. You'd see it in, like, I talked to a Filipina who's been here for about 30 years, and she has a kid here in Texas, and I asked her about who she wants to vote for, and uh, she said she was voting for Harris. After a few probing questions, she opened up that she was voting for Harris.
That's a good thing then, though, right? That means people are more engaged.
Oh yes.
Are we expecting a record turnout this year?
Okay, I think it will be based on the pronouncements of some analysts. I think it will be in the level of the 2008 elections where Obama ran and won. President Obama ran and won. But when you say about enthusiasm going up, it's for Americans it's high, but as compared to the Philippines, it's very low. There's so many Americans who still do not care to vote. Um,
Oh.
you've seen reports that people are 15, 50s or 60s who voted for the first time in their lives. In the Philippines, that hardly happens. Diba?
Yeah.
It hardly happens. Everybody pretty much votes on election day.
Wait, sorry. You mean to say their voter turnout is lower than the Philippines is? How could that be?
Oh yeah, oh
Oh.
yeah. It's pretty low. I think it's about 20 to 30%. I might be wrong, but it's about a fourth of the population who only votes. Uh, so it's not that high.
A polling station in the U.S. swing state of Georgia was closed due to a hoax bomb scare. Now, the polling site was eventually reopened and caused only a minor disruption, according to authorities. Republican Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger said Russian interference was behind them. The Russian embassy in Washington did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Our Filipino Young Professionals Secretary Gabe Young shared that universities in the U.S. are conducting mental health checks due to the tension surrounding the elections. He is also, quote, naively hopeful that Kamala Harris will win against Donald Trump. Here's an excerpt of his interview on StoryCon.
Are things back there, Gabe, since last time we talked?
Things are very tense, very stressful. There's a lot of tension through the air right now. And if you remember from last time, I mentioned that I'm currently doing my master's degree in public policy here at the University of California, Berkeley. And emails are going out to both us grad students and just the general population to check in on each other, make sure your mental health is okay. Remember that our health comes first, and even professors are reaching out to students asking if they want to cancel classes because of how stressful this election is coming down upon us. A lot of the messaging going out right now is this might be one of, if not the most important election in our lifetimes, and so there's a lot of stress and pain going around right now.
Any fearless forecast, Dave?
My fearless forecast, I am, in quotes, naively hopeful that Kamala Harris will pull through, but after waking up and checking my polls again, I'm still seeing that the polls are tied 48-48 with that 4% margin of error, but there are lots of polls showing Kamala at 49-48. And so I'm really hoping on that +1 differential. It will really come through on election day, especially as people make their ways to the polls.
But Gabe, there are a lot of concerns. There's a lot of talk about the possibility of some candidates not accepting the results if the result turns out to be against them.
Candidate.
Of course, without naming names. How real is that concern as far as you guys are concerned? I mean, is it really a major concern, or is it just something floating around on top of your head?
It's a major concern, and I don't think it's just floating around my head, but especially folks who are organizing with the Democratic Party and my colleagues over at Filipino Americans here for Harris Waltz. We're already sensing it, where lots of folks are already hearing that Trump is calling for election fraud. Just recently, earlier today, in his rally over in Michigan, he was already insulting President Joe Biden again. He was insulting Vice President Harris, Nancy Pelosi, and really making the statement that the Democrats will steal this election once again. And so I just recently also read, as I woke up, was that there are a lot of Republican states that are, and their own judges that are trying to block the federal government's Department of Justice for sending down lawyers down into these states to make sure that elections are properly handled. And this has been a historic thing, so it's not as if the Department of Justice is just doing it as a response to Trump, but they're doing it as normal procedure, yet they're already being challenged. And so what a lot of political scientists, my own professors, former secretaries within the administrations are noticing or bracing for is that we probably won't know the election results until Wednesday, Thursday, U.S. time. And then also, we are all awaiting a slew of lawsuits going to go up against election officials, Secretary of States, and then even the federal government itself by the Trump campaign, as well as what we saw in 2020. So a lot of us are gearing up for those legal battles. We know that the Harris campaign is staffing itself with lawyers right now just in case, but there is that tension and fear that Donald Trump will not accept the results regardless of what will happen.
All right, now let's discuss more about the ongoing U.S. elections. We have with us this morning political analyst Edmond Tayo joining us via Zoom this morning. Good morning, Sir Edmond. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Good morning.
All right. Good morning, Sir Edmond. Okay, I just want to talk about so far the heat map of the U.S. elections, if we can bring that up quickly. We have Donald Trump actually leading with 90 electoral votes versus Kamala with 27. So far, this is 8 p.m. These are the results, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And Trump here winning already Florida with 30 electoral votes. I mean, what are you seeing here? Are there any surprises? And is this indicative of what the results will look like for this year's U.S. elections?
I think it's quite early to call it in favor of Trump. We've seen the numbers before the elections started, and there was a complete turnaround, when Kamala Harris took over from President Biden as the standard bearer of the Democrats. So I'm going to suspend judgment until at least 2 or 3 states more. Then we can perhaps see a trend, and see it through.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Professor Edmond, maraming nagtatanong talaga na when it comes to U.S. elections, how does this impact the Philippines? How are we affected with the outcome particularly? I wanted to get your thoughts on how might the outcome of this U.S. elections impact our relations with the U.S. in terms of trade and economy?
Actually, tayo lang naman yung nag-assume na apektado tayo. Apektado ang buong mundo because whether we like it or not, the whole world is structured based on the U.S. dollar and the U.S. economy. So, in other words, all goods and services are based on the international standards, which is the U.S. dollar. Now, having said that, if there are changes that we can expect in any change of administration, it's always in terms of trade relations. We've seen this particularly in the case of Trump when essentially the U.S. was set up from the rest of the world. There were very significant changes in U.S. relations with key partners, not only with the Philippines, but also in South Korea. And we can also remember that when he was president, then German Chancellor Angela Merkel had to take care of Europe, because the U.S. has simply withdrew from its influential role in the world and in Europe. Mm-hmm. So that's what we can expect in another Trump presidency. But alam mo, I'm going to hazard the guess that I don't think he's going to win again.
Okay. Not going to win again, but we are preparing either way for Harris or a Trump presidency. But Prof. Edmond, I wanted to get your thoughts also on defense policies. Could we expect things to change under a Trump presidency, especially with regards to the West Philippine Sea, with China's actions in maritime disputes. How might this impact our regional stability?
Malaki yan, ano? Kaya that's why I mentioned earlier, when Trump was president, everything changed. The US simply withdrew from the world stage. And so you can expect that the US will also leave its presence in the region. Trump has always complained about the U.S. being the quote-unquote the policeman of the world, and so and always ranted about the U.S. spending so much, for the security of other countries and not being able to take care of its own people, and so you expect that that is going to be the kind of America that we can see again. Actually, may pattern naman yan. Pagka Democrat ang president, usually mas involved yan internationally. Pag Republican, although not as extreme as Trump, pag Republican, lesser ang involvement yan when it comes to international politics.
Okay, sir, when it comes naman po sa ating Philippine leaders, how do you think they should be preparing for a Trump and a Harris presidency? Nabanggit na po dati, it was mentioned that Kamala Harris might just continue the policies of Joe Biden. But if we will be facing a Trump 2.0 administration in the U.S., how should our Filipino leaders be preparing for that?
Actually, it should serve as a curtain call, for us really to pursue a really independent foreign policy. You see, if we're going to go back in the previous administration, if there was any good with the people that we did, that we became closer to China, the effect is not only getting us close to China, but it opened our relations with the other countries, allowing us to get so much of what we need, especially in defense, from other countries. We got materials from Israel, from Turkey, from so many other countries, that previously was limited to the U.S. What the president now is doing is renewing these ties, because medyo extreme naman yung nangyari last administration. We were literally influenced. I don't want to use the word control, but right now, medyo unti-unti, in the case of the West Philippine Sea, lumalabas, there was very significant influence on the part of China with the way we handled it in the previous administration. So we should learn from both experience that relying too much on a particular country, whether China or the U.S., is not the right formula for us. We should be able to appreciate the strength of the Philippines strategically, not only in the region but in the whole world, and that we should be able to make use of that advantage to push for our own ends.
Okay, and sir, finally, what should our takeaways be from this particular U.S. elections as we Filipinos prepare for our own midterm elections next year, 2025?
Hindi yung elections ang problema natin. In fact, I'm inclined to think malaki na yung improvement natin sa elections. Ang problema natin talaga systemic. Wala tayong tunay na political party, and as a result, as a result, anyone who simply have the resources and popularity can just run for office. You can just look at our not only with those we have been electing in different elected posts, but even in the party list elections, ang dami kang makikita mga pangalan ng party list na hindi mo maintindihan saan nanggaling yung mga pangalan, and supposedly they're representing the marginalized. So in other words, there's so much to be had as far as our elections are concerned. It's not just a question of what's this the system of voting, no? But it has something to do with the whole political setup.
All right, well, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us this morning. Thank you very much. That was political analyst, Professor Edmund Tayo. We'll be back with more stories after this break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching One News now. I'm Pauline Verzosa. And now for the weather, Typhoon Marce slowed down as it moves closer to northern Luzon. And for more updates, we have our weather mobile journalist Francis Orsio joining us this morning. Francis, nasaan na ba si Bagyong Marce at gaano kalaki ang tsansa na maglalandfall ito sa Pilipinas?
Yes, Pauline, nananatiling nasa typhoon intensity itong sentro ng Bagyong Marce and it was estimated 335 kilometers sa may silangan ng Tuguegarao City, Cagayan, while moving westward slowly nga papalapit dito sa kalupaan ng Cagayan. And we are expecting yung landfall scenario, although may possibility din na baka dumaplis lang sa mga kalupaan ng Babuyan Islands or Cagayan. Pero nakikita nga din natin yung possibility na baka mag-landfall or tumama itong sentro ng mata ng bagyo by Thursday evening or early morning ng Friday dito nga sa may areas ng Babuyan Islands or sa may Cagayan. Pauline.
Okay, Francis, sa ngayon ba meron na bang mga lugar na may nakataas ng storm signals?
Yes, Pauline, nakataas na ang tropical cyclone wind signal number 2 dito sa may areas ng Babuyan Islands and including yung northeastern portion ng mainland Cagayan. And yung signal number 1 naman ay inaasahan na nating makakaapekto dito sa may Batanes, natitirang bahagi ng Babuyan Islands, ng mainland Cagayan, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, Apayao, Abra, Kalinga, Mountain Province, Ifugao, ang northeastern portion ng Benguet, kabilang din dyan ang Isabela, Nueva Vizcaya, Quirino, at ang northern portion ng Aurora. Pauline.
Alright, Francis, magdadala ba ng mas maraming ulan pati hangin itong si Bagyong Marce given na hindi ganun kalawak yung cloud bands niya?
Yes, Polino, aside from the tropical cyclone wind signal na itinaas nga ng Pag-asa, we have to monitor also yung bigat ng ulan na maaari niyang ibuhos dito sa may northern Luzon. Actually, ngayon, according to forecast, accumulated rainfall ng Pag-asa, mararanasan natin yung heavy to intense rainfall sa may mainland Cagayan or 100 to 200 millimeters yung buhos ng ulan na maaring maranasan ngayong araw doon, while 50 to 100 millimeters ng ulan or moderate to heavy yung maaari namang maranasan ngayong araw sa may Batanes, Isabela at Aurora. Pero dahil nga nasa typhoon intensity na ito, bukod doon sa dami ng buhos ng ulan na maaring maranasan doon sa mga areas na ating nabanggit, yung malalakas na hampas din ng hangin, yung pagbugso ng hangin, dahil nga nandun na siya sa typhoon intensity. So we are expecting habang papalapit ito sa may kalupaan ng northern Luzon, mas malalakas pa yung hangin na maaring maramdaman doon sa areas ng northern Luzon or particularly sa Cagayan, Isabela, Babuyan Islands at sa ilan pang bahagi ng northern Luzon, Poli.
Ano itong si Bagyong Marce, halos pareho kasi yung ruta niya kay Bagyong Leon. Francis, may paliwanag ba yung Pag-asa tungkol dyan?
Yes, well, kung titignan natin yung mga nagdaang bagyo, including yung Super Typhoon Holian, itong bagyong Christine, Leon, halos pare-pareha sila ng track or tinumbok na direksyon na laging dito sa may northern Luzon at itong ang bagyong Marce ay parehas din ng tinutumbok. Pero ang paliwanag sa inyong Pag-asa bakit laging sa may northern Luzon, malaki kasi yung epekto ngayon ng umiinit na karagatan din ng ating Pilipinas at historically talagang yan yung mga direksyon ng bagyo pagsapit ng Burr months or last quarter ng taon, laging sa may Luzon area yung tinatamaan ng bagyo. But for now, yung malaking possibility ng landfall ay yung nakikita nga din natin dito sa may bagyong Marce. Kagaya ng bagyong Christine na dinaanan niya sa may mainland Cagayan. Pero sa ngayon nga, yung possibility din na baka dumaplis lang sa lupa ay nakikita rin ng Pag-asa para dito sa Typhoon Marce.
Okay, pero kailangan pa rin na paghandaan yan, no? For now, thank you very much for that report. That was mobile journalist Francis Orsio. Now, the number of dengue and leptospirosis cases in Metro Manila have increased. Based on the latest data of the Health Department in Metro Manila, there are over 2,700 cases of leptospirosis from January to October 26. This is higher than around 1,400 cases registered in the same period last year. More than 210 leptospirosis patients have died from the illness this year, and it is higher than the 172 deaths reported last year. Authorities said the long-term solution against leptospirosis is having a proper flood control project.
Kami rin po ay naghihintay na maayos natin yung ating flood control dahil ito rin po ang dahilan kadalasan ng mga sakit na nakikita po natin ngayon. Kung walang baha, walang lepto.
Meanwhile, over 24,000 dengue cases were reported this year so far. It is a 53% increase from the numbers in the same period last year. 66 dengue patients have died from the illness. The DOH raised concerns about Metro Manila breaching the dengue alert threshold.
They should take this seriously. Kasi ang dengue nakakamatay. Ang dengue nakakagastos ng malaki.
Meanwhile, the Land Transportation Office, or LTO, aims to identify the person behind the illegal usage of the EDSA busway. Now, the LTO revealed that the car used in illegally traversing the busway is a Cadillac Escalade. And based on the records, no Cadillac Escalade was issued with a Protocol Plate 7. Therefore, the driver of the luxury car used a fake Protocol Plate.
Ang naging challenge po natin dito, yung pong harap na plaka at yung likod na plaka ay pareho pong number 7. So, amin pong tinitignan yung iba pong ibang marks or unique code identification ng isang sasakyan.
The Ninoy Aquino International Airport was once again ranked as the world's worst airport. Now, this is from the recent study by the Australian firm Compare the Market. With a score of just 0.24 out of 10, NAIA ranked as the lowest among the world's top-rated airports, falling behind in efficiency, accessibility, service, and cleanliness. The Hong Kong International Airport claimed the top spot globally, followed by Changi, Haneda, Incheon, and Hamad airports. NAIA's ranking reflects persistent issues such as flight delays, slow internet, and concerns about safety and sanitation.
I hope just the Wi-Fi will improve in the international airports. The moment you arrive by the land, the Wi-Fi is very fast.
I'm proud to be a Filipino, pero pag pag-uusapan natin ang airport, I'm sorry. Mainit na sa labas, mas mainit pa sa loob.
And those are the top stories of the hour. I'm Pauline Verzosa. We are One News.